If you are experiencing foundation issues, get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
Time for our interview of the day. Have with me this morning, Laura Barlow Heath.
Good morning.
Good morning, Laura. Welcome to Daybreak.
Thank you.
I've heard a lot about you and seen a lot of your signs and already heard some good things about you. And,
Well, thank you.
And thank you for agreeing to come in and talk with us this morning.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
I know you're a council person for District 5.
Yes, sir.
I also know this is one of the first times you've ever been on television or been interviewed. Is that correct?
It is. You know, I like to lay low. If I could have campaigned quietly and just gone door to door without signs or any advertisement, I would have, because I'm for the people. I'm not a politician.
Well, whether you want to be or not, you've become a politician. And tell us what you would like for us to know or anything you'd like for us to know about Laura.
Well, I am 33 years old. I am the daughter of Steve Barlow. He's at NEMAC, the Director of Human Resources out there. I'm the daughter of Lori Jones. She is the president of L&N Transportation out of Pelham. My grandparents are Patricia Lindley Alverson and the late Larry Lindley. And the Lindleys are a staple of the community. They've been here for years. My uncle Altry has worked on appliances for many of the, citizens around here. I'm married to Blake Heath. We have 3 children. Corbett's 11, Blakely is 4, and Maddie Lindley is 3.
Okay, I know Altry pretty well. I think he and I graduated from high school together.
Okay.
Or I know I graduated with a Lindley.
There's Archie, Altry, Larry was
May have been Archie, but back in 1958 from Sylacauga High School. But I guess the question that I ask everybody that's run for office or in a position, why did you want to be a Sylacauga City Council person?
Well, I love to serve. I've served with Little League. I'm currently their president of the baseball side. I've always had a heart to serve, and I felt like this was the next step in serving.
Well, I know all of a sudden, back last year, your signs started popping up, and you're in District 5, and explain a little bit where District 5 is in Sylacauga. You're pretty much sort of in the middle or so.
Well, District 5 is quite spread out. We get a lot of the annexed-in properties all the way from Center Point Acres to Odina area, all the way behind Piggly Wiggly on 280. I mean, we're quite spread out, down towards Fayetteville as well.
Well, what's your goals is to be a council person? Really, what do you want to do?
To make Sylacauga better than it already is, to be a voice for the citizens, the people voted me in. That's what I'm here for, is the people, to take their concerns to City Hall.
So I guess what you're telling me, if the people in District 5 wanted something and you didn't really want it, if they wanted it, you're going to vote that way.
That's what, I didn't, it's not about me, it's about the people. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be in this position.
You've been to, 4 council meetings already?
Yes, sir.
And you've got your goals, you know what you want to do, or you think you know what you want to do right now. They're probably going to change from month to month.
Right.
But what you want to do. But how do you feel about the possibilities of you obtaining your goals and getting some of these things done? I know it's soon with just 4 council meetings.
Right. I believe we're on the right track with a lot of things. There's, of course, things that I'm not going to agree with. And there's things that others aren't going to agree with that I agree with. It's really hard to answer because I am fresh. I'm shy of 2 months of being officially in. So, I don't have a really good answer for that.
What's the most pressing need that you see for the city of Sylacauga right now? I know that's a tough one, and there are a lot of needs. Or what would you like to try to accomplish first?
I would like to increase the patrolman's pay, because if you want to bring things in, you got to have a way of protecting it. You got to have we want to bring, new businesses, new civic center or rec center, you got to have, people there that's going to be able to protect it. And if we don't increase, salaries, we're going to lose police to different departments that pay better and offer more incentives than we do.
I'm in a position that I know that the police department has job applications for police now. There have been very few people to apply. And I would imagine that not too many people with today's climate, today's news, wants to put on a gun, wants to go out there and do anything. I mean, like that. So we'll talk about the pay and what it's all about a little bit later. But there's several things that have come up, and I showed you a list of some of them before, and if you don't want to talk about them, that's perfectly all right. Okay. I'm not going to press you because you're new at this and at interviewing, and I can understand that. But splash pad, swimming pool, quote swimming pool. Where are you on that? And I mean that's something
that's. I do believe that there's going to be several properties presented to the Planning Commission. It's not just Main Avenue. I'm for what the people want. I mean, I'm raising my children here, so of course I want what is going to be the best, best, safest area to place it and what's going to be, the most affordable. And it's what the people want.
Laura, you're the first city council person that I've heard make the statement there's more than one property being considered. I've never heard that from the other four. And I'm happy to hear that. I was on the Planning Commission. I got off last year. I was on the Planning Commission for 18 years, and I'm glad the city is considering letting the Planning Commission. There is a law out there that any use of public land, whether it's by the utility department, by the school, or whatever, before it can be used, before it can be redeveloped, before it can be changed, must have to go to the city, to the Planning Commission, and looked at in conjunction with a comprehensive plan. This has not been done during the years, and I'm happy to see, and a lot of people will be happy to see that this is being in consideration. And I won't even ask you the other properties because it's one of those deals that you probably don't want to bring in, because if the city doesn't want to buy the land all of a sudden goes up if they don't own it.
We sat down, Tiffany Nix and I sat down with
Tiffany's Council District 2.
And with Mike, who is in Planning and Code, just to see what the proper steps were for doing it, just for informational purposes. If you don't ask, you don't know. You don't know what the proper steps are. And so we wanted to make sure that this is being done correctly, that, the people's opinions are involved. You'll have a public hearing through the Planning Commission and stuff as well. So our main goal, it's for the people. So we don't want, one location shoved down everybody's throats, believing that that's the one and only.
Well, to make it clear, the Planning Commission only recommends, and they recommend to the city, and you have to overrule with a supermajority. A majority of 3 won't overrule it. If the Planning Commission makes a rule, you got to have 4 members from the city council. But I think you've pretty well answered the question I was going to ask you about the Civic Center on Main, that since there are other places being considered or would be considered, let's move on to one of the things that scares the heck out of a lot of people in Sylacauga, a lot of retail people in Sylacauga, is constantly we hear that this new council is considering a sales tax increase. Where are you on sales tax increase?
Another thing, that's another thing for the people. I'm going to vote accordingly. I'm not going to vote for what Laura wants or what everybody else, thinks the way I should. I'm going to vote how the people who voted me in feel. The majority may feel a certain way, and another, half of them may feel another way, but I'll go with the majority of how they feel.
Okay. Present budget. The budget, in my recollection, for the last 2 administrations, maybe it was 3 administrations, should go into effect on October 1st.
Right.
It's never been ready. Where do you feel about that? The budget is always set after a new year, and everything is pretty well set with very little changes and everything level funding from the year before. What do you think about budgeting?
Well, I'm new, so I'm learning. I'm still learning about that. I'm still certainly learning on how all that works within the government side of things.
Let's talk about the pay scale. The police chief has made a recommendation to the city council to separate the pay scale from, right now the pay scale of the police department and fire department is pretty much public safety deal. He has recommended a change in a 2-level pay scale for the police department. What's this all about?
Well, we're still sorting those things out. At our next council meeting, it will be discussed again. The fire department, I'm their liaison. We have a great fire department. We just had those. Nate always good as a fire chief. Yeah, he's great at his job, and we have a really good. But they're 2 separate things. They're 2 separate worlds. And you have the same pay scale for both of them. They need to be separated. I agree with that.
Well. Do you think that, and it's like I mentioned before, it's getting hard to find people to even apply for a police officer's job in Sylacauga.
Right.
The standards for a police officer, I know personally, is very high.
Right.
And you have to do very well on the test, on not only the written test, the intelligent test, but the physical test, psychological test, and whatever you want to call it. There's a lot to go through, and there's a lot to get involved in being a police officer and training one. And what kind of, I'm not going to ask you what kind of pay scale you think you're doing, but I guess really what I'm asking you, I'm sort of going around in circles, is are you in favor of a new pay scale, or are you not in favor?
I'm in favor of it. I am.
Okay, industrial growth in Sylacauga. We've had some industrial growth over the last few years. One of the problems we've had in industrial growth is the people that come in here at managers, the new people that come in to live, don't live in Sylacauga.
Right.
Have you got a good suggestion of why, what can be done, or if anything can be done? Because we're really seriously endangering on Thursday, New Year's Eve, the new census report should come out. If we're below 12,000 people, that'll change the form of government in Sylacauga.
Sure will.
And we'll get into that a little bit later if you want to. But have you thought about the annexation? I guess this all comes into industrial growth and how you get these people to live, how you get the industry to ask their people to live in Sylacauga.
That's a tough question.
I may be putting a lot of questions in your head to think about the coming years.
But that's an excellent question. I don't feel comfortable answering that because I don't have all the answers.
Okay.
I don't have the right answers for that. But I agree with you on that. We've got to do something to bring people in and keep people.
Okay. There's Alabama Law, Supplement Law Amendment 772, where until about 8 years ago, you couldn't do anything, give any tax incentives to any commercial entity. You can do that now under 772, and I know y'all have had meetings on that.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on if people will make financial investments and giving them some sales tax money back over the years?
I'm still learning about that. I do not feel comfortable with giving a full answer because I'm not 100% familiar with it. I've been to one informational meeting on it, but I still don't feel like I'm at the point where I can fully speak on it with a reasonable answer.
Okay. Where would you like to see the city of Sylacauga in 4 years? What would you like to see have progressed? What would you like to see new? What would you like to see different after your first 4 years in office?
I'd like to see a pool. I'd like to see a pool.
Okay. Just a pool or a community center?
You know, I feel like a pool, you know, I'm for both. Don't get me wrong, I'm completely for both things. But I definitely, you know, as I said, I have children. I have a child who loves to, you know, swim, and I would like to see her eventually, you know, be on a swim team, and that's here.
Okay. Let's talk about something, and I interviewed Randy Clark the other day and he mentioned you. Tell me about Randy Clark and his litter program, and how you observe it, and if the city's going to get involved in it.
I think that Mr. Clark has done a wonderful thing for our city. He has stepped up, spent countless hours, supplies, cleaning up litter. I mean, all over the city. You know, we have a litter problem. We're actually in the process of starting up a nuisance and abatement board again within the city, and we'll appoint someone from our district, you know, to represent our district for problems such as, you know, I mean, there's yards that have trash in them. There's trash all up and down the streets, and Mr. Randy has helped clean that up. I mean, he spent hours doing it. I think a lot of him. I appreciate all of his hard work, his effort that he does. He never stops, it doesn't seem like.
Laura, it's not, excuse me, nice talking with you this morning. I'm glad you came out, and you're president of Sylacauga Little League.
Yes, sir.
And let me ask you a question. Why did you do that?
Well,
and we'll get back on another day to get into the Little League, but it's very unusual, I think, to see a female as president of the Little League. I was around in 1953 when the Little League started. I was too old. Believe it or not, I was too old to play on the first Little League team back in 1953.
Okay.
So,
well, my son has a passion for baseball, and I love Little League. I'm always involved. I'm involved in the school. You know, I'm vice president PTO at Pinecrest, and I've been very, very involved with Little League because that's his passion, and I love it. I love what it represents. I love that it brings families together, that it's about volunteering and serving. And
okay. We will get back, and I hope I'm back for Jimmy Dale again in the future, and you're going to be my guest if you will be. And
sure.
We'll talk about nothing about Little League, but I'd like to commend you for being on the City Council. You've presented yourself really well every meeting, and since you've become a council person, and thank you very much for agreeing to serve for the City of Sylacauga. And particularly thank you for letting me interview you for the first time.
Yes, sir.
For the medium. Thank you very much for what you do for the city.
I appreciate it.
We'll be back with more Sylacauga Daybreak right after this.